They told me to stay out of sight. It's not your night. Don't cause a scene. So I stayed in the kitchen, next to a tray of lukewarm hors d'oeuvres, listening to the clinking of glasses and polite laughter spill in from the ballroom. It was my mother's retirement party, 62 years of service to the city's school board, and apparently the whole town had come out to toast her. Council members, local CEOs, a state senator, and even whispers of the mayor stopping by. I wasn't officially on the guest list. My name had been left off by mistake, according to my cousin's tight smile. The same cousin who told me to help the catering team if you want to be useful. To them, I was the quiet one, the odd one, the girl who never quite fit the family mold. I'd learned long ago that trying to correct their assumptions was pointless. Let them believe I was just helping in the kitchen. Let them dismiss me again. I didn't need to explain myself. Not tonight, because the one person everyone was waiting to meet, the mystery woman behind the city's cutting-edge clean energy initiative, was already here. And she wasn't standing in the ballroom. She was leaning against a folding table in the back, wearing a borrowed black blazer, wiping her hands on a cocktail napkin. And when the mayor walked in, ignoring the crowd and cutting straight through the noise with one simple question, "Where's J.L. Vega?" It was the first time in years the room fell silent and started looking for me. The Reyes family was always louder when they were nervous, and tonight, they were practically shouting. My Aunt Sylvia was doing her usual rounds air kisses, whispered gossip, always 2 drinks deep by the time dessert arrived. My older brother, Marcus, was planted by the makeshift stage, practicing his speech in front of anyone who would listen, and my mother. She stood at the center of it all, glowing in a jewel-toned dress, accepting praise like a politician on election night. They'd transformed the city's community center ballroom into a tribute gallery, framed photos of my mom from her early teaching days to her tenure as superintendent lined the walls. A slideshow played above the podium, her shaking hands with governors, ribbon cuttings at schools, PTA awards, press clippings. If it involved a flashbulb and a plaque, it was probably there. I stood just beyond the double doors, watching through a thin slit in the divider. My name wasn't in the program. I wasn't asked to speak. And yet, I'd contributed something no one here even realized. "Do you need help plating those?" "Sweetheart," one of the catering staff asked gently, mistaking me for part of their team. I shook my head and smiled. No. I'm used to being invisible here. Somewhere behind the velvet curtain of this event was a truth none of them knew, that for the last 3 years, I'd been quietly developing a revolutionary energy storage system, one that just got approved for city-wide infrastructure funding. My name hadn't made the papers. I'd used a pseudonym, J.L. Vega, a professional alias that kept attention off my personal life and my family. I hadn't told my mother, not because I didn't want to, but because the last time I tried to talk about any of it, she smiled politely and changed the subject to someone else's baby shower. She didn't do it to be cruel. She just didn't understand me. Never had. To her, I was the kid who doodled in science books, who wore the same hoodie to Thanksgiving, who dropped out of law school to chase tech nonsense. She loved me. I know she did, but not in a way that saw me. And so, when the RSVP list was finalized and I never got a call, I didn't push. When my cousin handed me a kitchen apron and said, "You're good with details, right?" I didn't argue. I just nodded and stepped back. They thought they knew who I was. Tonight, they were going to find out they didn't have a clue. 3 years ago, I rented a tiny co-working desk in a shared warehouse in East Austin. No budget, no contacts, and barely enough left on my credit card to buy a secondhand soldering iron. I didn't have investors or legacy connections. I had a sketchbook full of circuitry ideas and a quiet fury that burned hotter than shame. The idea started with something simple. What if battery storage didn't just store energy? What if it adapted in real time to the city's energy flows? Most systems were either outdated or inefficient, draining resources even when idle. But a quantum reactive grid, one that learned from usage patterns and rerouted intelligently, could reduce waste by 40% and costs by even more. The first prototype exploded. The second one melted. The third finally held up for 6 hours under stress testing, and that was the breakthrough. I named the tech ARC Adaptive Reactive Cell. Clean, minimal, scalable. I filed my first patent under JL, Vega, a mashup of my middle name and grandmother's maiden name. It wasn't about hiding, not really. It was about not giving anyone the power to tell me what I couldn't be. I hired 2 interns who believed in the project more than I believed in myself. We stayed up through nights that blurred into mornings, eating noodles out of mugs and arguing about thermal shielding. ARC evolved into something real, something viable. The city's environmental council invited me, or rather JL Vega, to present at a clean energy summit last year. My voice shook through the entire talk, but the data didn't lie. Within 6 months, the mayor's office reached out privately. The city wanted to pilot the ARC system in 3 low-income districts that were plagued by blackouts. We rolled it out in record time. Emergency response times improved. Costs dropped. The mayor called it the most forward-thinking infrastructure pivot in a generation. The recognition was surreal but anonymous. I wasn't in photos. I wasn't on press releases. And honestly, I didn't care. Not at the time, until my mother's retirement party showed up on the calendar and I saw the mayor's name on the guest list. It hit me like a punch to the ribs. I had given this city something real. I had made her legacy city shine a little brighter. And still, I was told to stay in the kitchen and slice lemon wedges. The woman they were all about to toast had raised a daughter they didn't even acknowledge. A week ago, I got a call, not from a city official, from the mayor himself. JL Vega, I hope you'll be attending the ceremony on Saturday. He didn't know my family, didn't know I'd be standing behind a wall like a hired hand. All he knew was that I'd changed his city for the better and that he wanted to meet me, shake my hand, maybe introduce me to a few people. Will you be there? He'd asked. I paused. Yes, I said, not as an observer, not as the quiet one, not this time. The music dipped to a low hum. A flurry of movement at the entrance drew everyone's attention. Security parted like waves, and in walked Mayor Andre Caldwell, tall, sharp in a navy suit, always calm, but with the kind of presence that made entire rooms hush without him saying a word. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People stood straighter, fixed their hair, subtly maneuvered into better photo positions. My brother Marcus jogged forward with his perfect handshake and prepared monologue about our family's community involvement. My mom beamed, her hands fluttering as she reached for the mayor's arm, but he barely registered them. He looked around the room, brows furrowed slightly as if searching. Then he cleared his throat and asked, loud enough for everyone to hear, is J.L. Vega here? Silence. The kind of silence you could feel. Someone dropped a fork. A server froze mid-pour. My cousin's face turned the color of skim milk. I was told she'd be here tonight. The mayor continued. I'd really like to meet the architect behind ARC. It's not often I get to thank someone who's revolutionized this city's energy future in person. More silence. And then a slow, confused chorus of heads turning. People whispered. Some looked toward the ballroom doors. Others glanced at the stage, the VIP tables. A few laughed nervously, and then I stepped forward. Not from the stage, not from the family table, from the kitchen. Black pants, no designer tag, hair tied back, a badge clipped to my hip labeled event support. I saw the realization unfold across their faces like a sunrise no one wanted but couldn't ignore. The mayor's eyes lit up. There you are, he said, walking straight toward me. You've been hiding in the back. I nodded once, cool and steady. Apparently, I'm good at staying out of the way. He laughed. Not anymore, I hope. I took his offered hand, and his grip was warm, respectful. J. Vega, he said to the stunned room, is the mind behind ARC, the adaptive power grid system that's cutting our city's energy waste by 40%. She's changing the game, and I have a feeling she's just getting started. A beat of silence, then the cameras turned, faces twisted in disbelief. My Aunt Sylvia clutched her wine glass so hard I thought the stem might snap. Marcus blinked like he'd been slapped. My mother was still frozen mid-smile. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I didn't know. She finally managed. No one did. I replied, not cruelly, just truthfully. And then, from the side of the room, someone murmured, "You're her." It was the same tone people used for movie stars or war heroes. Yes, I said simply, I'm her. The mayor turned to my mother. You must be proud. It was a question disguised as a statement. My mother swallowed. Of course, she said, I just wish I'd realized. You're not the only one, I replied. The mayor leaned in. I'd like you to join me at the front. Say a few words, if you're willing. The words lodged in my throat, but I nodded. We walked together through a stunned crowd. Eyes followed me, but not the way they used to, not with pity or doubt or condescension. There was weight in those stares now. Respect. Maybe even a little fear. The stage was small. The mic a little too low. I adjusted it and faced the room. Took a breath. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I began. At least, not in front of you. I was told to stay in the kitchen, to not make a scene. But sometimes, being underestimated is the greatest advantage. I paused, because while no one was watching, I was building. The applause didn't come right away. But when it did, it wasn't polite. It was thunderous. And I didn't flinch. I stood there, exactly where I was meant to be. The applause faded, but the aftershock hadn't. I stepped down from the stage, and the room parted like I was royalty or radioactive. A few brave faces offered congratulations. Others just stared. A distant uncle, who once told me I wasn't cut out for the real world, now avoided my eyes entirely. I didn't go looking for my family. I didn't have to. They found me. Marcus got to me first. What the hell was that, he hissed, trying to keep his smile in place for the crowd. Recognition, I said flatly. You could have warned us. And said what I raised an eyebrow. Hey, Marcus. FYI, the person you've ignored for a decade is revolutionizing municipal energy storage, and the mayor's a fan. He bristled. You blindsided, Mom. No, I said, you all blinded yourselves. Then came my cousin, the same one who handed me a kitchen apron hours earlier. I had no idea you were involved in this kind of stuff, she offered weakly. You never asked. I replied. You just assumed. I watched her search for a defense, then fall silent. Behind them. My mother stood motionless near the family table, her retirement plaque still clutched tightly in one hand. She looked smaller than she had just an hour ago. Not defeated, but shaken. Like someone who had just realized an entire story had been unfolding under her roof, and she'd missed every chapter. She stepped forward, slowly. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her. Because the last time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject. You asked me if I was dating anyone instead. Her mouth opened, then closed. I thought I was protecting you. No, I said gently. You were protecting the version of me you were comfortable with. She blinked, and I saw her chest rise and fall in one long, slow breath. And now, I said, you don't have to protect me at all. Then Claire arrived, not a family member, but a local clean energy investor who'd been trying to court ARC for months. If you're open to private sector partnerships, she began, we'd be very... I held up a hand, not tonight. She nodded, clearly reading the room. Just then, the mayor reappeared. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, addressing my mother, "but I just wanted to say you raised someone remarkable." My mother's voice cracked. "I didn't raise this. She became it, somehow, on her own." "That," the mayor replied, "might be even more impressive." I caught Marcus watching us, his face unreadable. For the first time in years, he didn't look smug. He looked scared. Not of me, but of what he'd missed. Because somewhere deep down, I think he realized the hierarchy had changed. The family power dynamics had just tilted on their axis, and I hadn't even raised my voice. This wasn't revenge. It was something quieter, deeper. It was proof, and it was permanent. Later that night, as the last guests trickled out and the catering team began packing up, I slipped outside onto the back patio. The air was cooler than expected. Quiet, finally. I leaned against the railing, watching the city lights shimmer beyond the trees. The same city I had helped rewire without anyone noticing. Until now. Footsteps approached behind me, slow, hesitant. It was my mother. "I didn't know you were out here," she said, voice soft. "I didn't turn around. I figured you'd be busy with everyone." She stepped beside me. "They're gone. All of them. It's just us now." I nodded. "Seems fitting." She was quiet for a long time. Then, almost a whisper. "That night you left home. After dropping out of law school, I was so angry. Not because I thought you'd fail, but because I didn't understand what you wanted. You kept trying to show me sketches, those notebooks of yours, and You laughed," I said, finally facing her. "I know," she said, tears already forming. "I was scared of what it meant if you were serious, of losing control. I didn't say anything. I let her sit with that." "I was wrong," she whispered. "About you, about everything." I nodded slowly. "I didn't need you to believe in me, Mom. I just needed you to see me." She looked at me, really looked, and for the first time in years, I saw recognition. Not polite nodding or nervous pride, but awe and grief and love. Real and raw. "Can you ever forgive me?" she asked. I looked down at the ring I wore on a chain around my neck, the one she gave me on my 12th birthday. When I won the regional science fair and she told me I could be anything, it had taken me this long to believe her. "It depends," I said gently. "Are you ready to learn from your daughter?" She nodded, eyes wet. "Teach me." A long silence passed between us. Not uncomfortable, just real. The next morning, I walked into the main building of the city's municipal development office, this time through the front door. A banner above the lobby read, "ARC Integration Launch Initiative." My name was on the agenda. Not a pseudonym, not a proxy, mine. Later, I stopped by the new lab our team was building downtown. On the wall hung a framed quote one of the interns had put up. "Sometimes the greatest revenge is proving yourself right." Beneath it, in fresh marker, someone had scribbled, "and building something no one can ignore." I smiled, because they were both true. I used to think my story was about being shut out, ignored, dismissed, and maybe, for a while, it was. But now it's about reclaiming every room I was told I didn't belong in and redesigning the damn blueprints. To anyone who's ever been underestimated, sidelined, or told to stay in the kitchen, I see you, and I hope you know. You're not invisible, you're just getting started.